Hey Otherworlders, this is Korean. Today we're talking about things that the Outer Worlds 2 does not explain very well or not at all or in ways that are not super clear. So let's dive into the very first thing because you were probably pretty confused about this was mods. Now mods are things you'll see in your inventory. Let me show you them just very quickly. It's this little icon over here. You see these things. So blast-proof defenses, you'll see what looks like a shirt or something like that. And you're like, what the hell is this thing? And doesn't really explain like how do you use it or where do you use it from. And I believe we also have these things as well, which is like recipes. And they're just in your inventory. And we seem to have unlimited inventory space. So when I first got these, I'm like, okay, how do I read the recipe? Again, very typical RPG-esque in order to use this. But no, once you get your recipes, you basically go to the workbench. I'm going to show you right now. And let's talk about crafting first. And once you have a recipe, right, you have the recipe to make this here. You can see I can use it to make for biomass for my biomass gun. I've got long rounds for my assault rifle. Now let's talk about armor mods. Now, armor mods, I've got all of these things. I can make them, but like to go, and I've got weapon mods as well. I can make weapon mods. I've got inhaler primers, which I don't have a recipe for. Miscellaneous things, mag picks are for lockpicking, bypass shunts are for hacking. I've done like a sci-fi hacking build this time. So, but let's go back to mods. So when you go to the mod screen, you've got your range weapons. I don't have a lot of ranged weapon mods available. Just for the assault rifle right here. Melee weapon mods as well. Nothing here too much. But here is the armor. Now this is also not super clear. So you can see this is the armor I currently have. It only has 9 armor, and it doesn't explain what the 9 means. Is it absorbing 9 damage? I don't know exactly. But you can see some of the other stuff is pretty clear. I've got a damage resistance of 10%. Cool. I've got an extra damage resistance of 10% with defense plates. I've got adrenaline shot. I've got cast cut materials. Plus 30% damage resistance, but 5% damage resistance is lost every time the warrior takes damage, down to no additional bonus. So this really makes sense. Probably not for me because I'm just more of a sit and shoot kind of person, not really dodging. But if you're the kind of person who does dodge, this definitely makes sense for you. So in this sword armor, all my 3 slots are taken up. One thing I have not figured out is how to put mods in the slots. Like I don't want cost cut materials. I wish I could change it, but I'm not sure how. Maybe this is just a downside for this armor that I don't know how to sort of get rid of yet. But let's say, for example, you can see where this goes in there. So all these go in my very first slot, and this replaces the existing defensive plates that I have. And shocking soak, right? This is very specific to shock damage, and this is plasma damage. And this is plus 20% damage resistance while below 50% health. Plus 25% damage resistance to corrosion. So none of this is very super useful, but like now you sort of understand the way mods work, how to craft armor. The next thing I want to talk about is this silly map. So here's the local map, okay? Again, not too complicated, but I find very difficult in this game, I'm going to zoom out, right? Is you have these like high school-esque like oh my god, I can't even say it. You have these high school as topographical lines, or I don't even remember what the proper word is. So sometimes you might be going to places like, okay, there's a cliff here. How do I get around it? So one of the most frustrating things in this game is these lines because you're not sure, like, how do I get to a particular place? In the first area of the game, I spent some time trying to get to a particular location just because I can't read these lines and it doesn't sort of tell you like how do I get there. There is no markers, so I have to go and explore the map, which is kind of cool again if you're into it. But if you're a gamer with limited time, it's going to be really irritating to get to certain places or to find like a nicer way to get into a certain place besides going in through the front door. Because again, like let's look at this location. I have to go in here. You can see this is the front door, right? But is there another way to go to this area? This looks like a way up, or I don't even know how to read this. If you know, let me know down in the comments. So a map is something that if you can figure out how to read this, yes, super helpful. If not, the game doesn't explain that like these lines are actually lines which tell you where you can go and where you can't go, and tells you the height of certain things. The next thing I want to talk about is your inhaler charge. And this is your inhaler charge, right? So you have an inhaler and you have other different kinds of inhalers. So right now my inhaler heals 300 seconds instantly and another 300 health over 5 seconds. Pretty good. I have other options here. Heals 300 instantly, increasing up to 2 times the amount that close you are to death. So that's one thing that I didn't realize until like 6 or 7 hours into the game. This is the very basic inhaler that you get, which again, you can see by the value, not that great. These two are both the same 188 bits. So you can sort of figure out what you want to do there. So inhaler is the way you heal in this game. And you can see that, like, if you look on the bottom center of my inventory next to Z, I have 7 inhaler charges, but you do risk inhaler toxicity if you keep healing all the time. This doesn't really affect your first run because you don't have any flaws, or you can reject flaws in your first run. And flaws is something else we'll talk about later if I do a second run, if I have time to do a second run. But yeah, inhalers, make sure you're using the latest inhaler that you have. Make sure you go to the store and you check out, are there any better inhalers in here? If you're looking for inhaler charges, right, you can buy it in an absolute emergency, but you do tend to pick up inhaler charge-like stuff. Now, the other thing I want to mention is ammo, because this is very confusing in the beginning, because when you look at a particular gun, this gun sort of tells you like the kind of ammo you're using on the top right hand of the weapon. And then you sort of have to match this to the symbols, right? So there's no text, which is kind of good depending on the kind of person you are. So regardless of language, you can sort of figure out, all right, this short rounds is for this, and you have to match the pictures to sort of understand what your ammo situation is, what ammo you need to buy more of, what ammo you don't need to buy more of. So keep that into account when you're buying ammo or crafting ammo, because again, it's not super easy to see. For example, when you go to a gun, well, let me show you in my inventory right here. If you just look at this at its face value, like what ammo does this use? Because this tells you, like on the bottom left, it tells you, okay, this is it has shock damage. This is, bio damage. But the actual weapons themselves, it tells you biomass canister, shock rod, long rounds, short rounds at the ammo type. But again, without looking at it, it doesn't tell you very easily what sort of ammo you need for this particular gun. So at least now you have to sort of mouse over each individual gun in sort of to understand what they actually need. And then as well, in the guns, you can see each picture has the number of mod slots. So you can see my assault rifle has, or this particular assault rifle, not the one I'm using, has 3 available slots. The one I'm using has 1 slot left that I can put a mod in. My biomass gun, same 1. Other gun is 1. One thing to note as well that this game doesn't explain is slots for your guns. So I used to have 4 slots, but I switched to this helmet over here, which looks super weird. But this helmet does not have the mod, like this helmet has the mod. Gives me an extra weapon slot, which is very weird to be on your head, right? Super weird, but that's the way the game works. I went for extra percent, 15% base health, which has really helped because I'm playing on hard. So mod slots or mods can influence the number of weapon slots you have. I used to have 4, and I'll show you right here. There you go. Now this 4th one is open, but I've decided to go back to 3 just because I want that extra health. So that's definitely something to take into account in this game. So those are everything in the game that are not super explained well. Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions? Let me know down in the comments, and we'll talk to you guys next week when I do another Outer Worlds 2 video. Thanks, guys.